Yeah.
Glass half,
Control.
glass half full.
I just wiped out the rest of the stuff.
Okay. Yeah, I brought copies of that with me too. Yep, I had that, when we did the, maintenance.
I just wiped that.
It's okay, so it's the same thing.
Here. Okay.
Somewhere out here.
Yeah, he's down to not almost 9:30 is what I saw.
Yep,
Hi, Crystal.
I'm good.
Take that. I'll get one for David. Good seeing you too.
Yep.
Kind of different coming down here and not seeing the courthouse.
Gotta find it quick.
I still have a piece, a stone piece of that courthouse. We were doing the assessments. I was walking around and a piece fell off of the top and down at my feet, not, well, kind of at my feet. At least that's what I'm telling everybody. It was probably a ways away.
Hi Sharon, it's
I
me.
just kept
Is
it, 'cause I
someone gonna
figured
come record the meeting?
if you keep the bill, you might want to patch it back on.
There you go.
It's still sitting in my
We did
desk.
it.
I am.
Well, I'm waiting on our auditor.
Yeah, with the West End.
It didn't move.
I have 9 o'clock.
It's all right. Cross members. Bunch of cross members for this
She
year.
said they left 10 minutes ago.
She was like one of the breaks.
How much?
So, it was
10
coming.
minutes ago.
They went
I
the
hope
wrong
nothing
way.
happens.
They went the wrong way.
Exactly. And it will happen.
It was her otherwise.
It'll be slow. So that's why I'm surprised it's a dump truck. Right now, too, it didn't break one of those.
The more people look into it, the better.
All the exterior outlets now are not GFI. GFIs don't push all the way up to the ears, they get tripped. So they just take them out. Regular outlets.
Assuming everything goes okay.
We found a GFI breaker, circuit breaker.
That's just getting it ground to the panel. Twenty-two basic changing. Move it all.
The electrical panels on the building right now, that's service those plugins. It's an interior one. It's not exterior.
And everybody will probably.
And all new panel. If you can find one, I guess all the dents.
That might be okay to do. It'd be very okay.
We're waiting on our auditor. She actually left quite some time ago and has not made it here, so we're a bit concerned.
From the admin building?
Mm-hmm.
There was a reason they got here.
You might be leaving out in the board for us all, if you will.
Should be deposition.
Yeah, they're not in the border.
Depot's coming?
So it's
Maybe
your house
Rhiannon
is
or steering across the street. At the temple.
House of Mercy.
Yeah, the front office.
Yeah, drove back.
Okay.
Pretty hot, huh? You got it all.
Getting warm on you?
Yeah.
Gotta get there, a little body heat in the room.
So if you're okay with, we're showing you here, I'll let you take a look at it. If you're okay, then we'll get the notes on for
I have sunglasses on that.
what we need to do there. So right now, the panel sits right here.
On the side of the building.
Yeah, it's on the outside of the building, right on there. So you can see electrical panel. And then, so we're gonna take the relocate it over into here. So we'll have to put a underground electrical box here for grabbing the cables that are coming this way. And then extend them over to here.
It's just this as simple as getting a guardrail set for roadways to just,
Is basically, yeah, you had some,
or is the main the electrical and then they set up a guardrail. Fit with the cost. That's how you recommend the package, I guess.
yeah. And so then, come up with the guardrail system, I had a 1'4" by 1'4" creosote post. That's what you have there.
What about the,
And then we just need to put on.
was that copper naphthenate or copper? What's that called, copper? It's like a different treatment than creosote.
Yeah, they just look like creosote to me.
Oh, okay, oh, so they might not have creosote in them.
No, they might
Oh,
not, but they
okay.
just
Oh,
look like
okay.
they had creosote.
Okay.
They're coated and you're protected with
They
something.
use like a copper naphthenate, I think it's called now.
Okay, maybe I didn't
I
get the
don't
right
know,
name
it's just
for
a
it.
different treatment in wood.
But, yeah, it's just-
Probably still
yeah.
sustain it at some point. So try to hope we never have to stain it.
Yeah, and then either put
Do
up
you know
2
the
by
ducting
12.
family?
2 by 12, you have a bunch of those on site for your railings, or come in with
Scott
that
and
metal
Holly
railing
ducting?
stuff, the
Yeah.
guardrail stuff that you have on site.
We're foreign.
You go.
And you're putting them,
It's impressive.
I need an eagle.
the outlets will probably 40 foot. You do have an option of doing, right now we got quad outlets every 40 foot, duplex outlets every, could go every 20 feet.
Are these like school bus sizes?
They're 12 foot by 48 foot. And it's the size that we calculated for
Those,
the
the
dump
biggest
truck
truck out there.
with a sander and a plow in the front. And I had to move it for the building, because I get them to move the building.
Did they do the auto turn on the site?
Are we gonna revisit that time
We
capsule?
can't.
I don't know if you, I don't think you'd have to build
You
your own
need to.
each one, you just pick a
I
similar.
might, you know, I'll
vehicle,
ponder it.
Run with it, right?
Mhm.
There's only
Because you're not,
one
you
person that
know,
wants to
auto
open
turn.
it.
Just to check that they can go in. I mean, you know, you
And I
go to
don't
all
have a
spots, you
phone.
take the worst case scenario spot, you know, then do one auto
It's a
turn,
good
and
thing.
worst case, that works for all.
But I already opened it a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
We used to try the backup
It's nothing
spots.
that really-
Distribution centers, stuff like that.
I've already pillaged
Would've
the
been
gold
really-
to even put in there in
Like 4 or 5 miles per
1938.
hour.
Just
You probably
remember
can.
that.
I left an IOU.
Because in the back of your mind, you know, you're a truck driver. They're
I
always
don't wanna
conservative.
keep that.
Right.
It's always
I would-
fun.
So, yeah, we might.
I don't
it
know
might
what's in
need to
there.
Move this out a little bit more.
Please don't put them
Once
in
we
the
get
Yeah.
out.
You got two of them.
There, so.
That's not a major issue, that's just some more wiring, longer wires to get to it.
Mhm.
About it.
And then, there's a pole light on it here, I guess that pole got hit. and
Now I sort of hope
broken.
there are some coins in there,
So
something.
we'll have to replace
value or
that
something
one.
neat, I don't know.
And we'll just light back on.
No idea what's in
Light and pole here.
And we
We're
won't
talking
know
about
until we
adding some
open it.
additional lighting that will then be
Listen
directed
to it.
more towards
I bet
down
they
here.
play.
Light that entire area up a little bit more.
Do you have safety coming for a street light? Would you guys be able to help with specking like a street light?
Oh, yeah.
I know we have a couple, but
Mhm.
when it gets into the electrical engineering world, I
Yeah, we
tend to
can,
lean on experts.
we can help you with anything you want. We'll bring John down.
And I'd start the process, it'd be more you looking at something I created and then
Mhm.
so I won't let you, not let you know until I have my ducks in a row and have a concept drawing and all that good stuff. And then you can be more maybe marking up some of the concepts or something.
No, it didn't fit
You know, we're doing stuff for
This year's
DOT.
budget.
Yeah, it was just,
Erase
it was just a typo.
I just noticed too, I was thinking.
One by bad typo. We had agreed to take off from step 7, and the previous one
I
I
don't
didn't
think-
have that
So
one.
that was
Any one
nobody
we did
else.
previous.
It was
It
just
was just a
sticking with
typo
the LED
on the
though, they
previous
had
one.
like-
They did, so they're taking to
Some
the
actually,
I don't know.
Okay.
Step seven.
Yeah,
It's to take
LED
one
is
step
the
7, was just a
way to go
typo.
right now. And everybody,
So long.
But they just changed like how they do their foot keeping. So it might not be the light itself that changes,
She told us we had that room booked for 9 o'clock over at the customers. We did forget about it. Oh, we didn't know that. Oh, thanks. It's cool.
Yeah.
Summer cut. Where? Oh. I didn't get it. We thought, I guess, okay, the West End.
All right, I'm calling the meeting to order. And our first item on, roll call.
McIntyre,
Here.
Cook,
Here.
Schultz.
Here,
Okay. First item on our agenda is consider departmental reappropriations for fiscal year 19-20 budget with possible action.
I have 2 requests for reappropriation. One is for that district court to finish out the claims that came through for the district court. Reappropriate, we have enough left over in medical examiner, which is also in service area 1, to transfer $6,000 from medical examiner to district court to cover those expenses. And then the second request is in service area 9. Our wellness incentives, we had additional people come on, so we needed an additional amount to cover those for the June wellness disbursement. The Board of Supervisors is also in service area 9, and we have room within our budget to reappropriate to wellness for those funds. So I'd like to request $1,100 from the Board of Supervisors office to the wellness to cover those claims. And those are my final requests for fiscal year 19 reappropriations.
I take a motion to consider those departmental reappropriations for fiscal year 19.
so moved.
Second.
McIntyre,
Yes.
Schultz,
Aye.
Cook.
Aye.
Okay, our second item on the agenda is consider request from Ragbri with possible action.
During budget time, we spoke, Ragbri had determined that it got chosen as an overnight stay, so it was during our budget process that we talked about that. They have sent an invoice to us for $10,000, requesting that that be paid out. We have it within our economic development budget for fiscal year 19. Per those conversations, they're requesting that payout now.
I accept a motion
So
to
moved.
pay that.
Second.
McIntyre,
Aye.
Cook,
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye.
Okay. Agenda item 3 is claims. With these appropriations and with the Ragbri brings it to $356,374.03. We have one fringe for $79.33.
Correct.
Okay. I'd accept a motion to pay those claims.
So moved.
Second.
McIntyre,
Aye.
Schultz,
Aye.
Cook.
Aye.
Okay, item number 4 on our agenda is consider salary correction for Jonathan Reith with possible action.
This was on our previous agenda. We went through and did all of our fiscal year salary adjustments with the COLA. And per our budget, what we had budgeted, there was a typo on John's, and he should have gone to a step 7. So this corrects that previous that we did on the last agenda.
I'd accept a motion to change this salary correction.
So moved.
Second.
McIntyre,
Aye.
Schultz,
Aye.
Cook.
Aye.
Okay, item number 5, consider required nationwide 457, parentheses, B in parentheses, plan option change with possible action.
The gentleman is here. So Matt Ring is his name. He's our representative with Nationwide. We have a benefit to our employees where they can optionally join a 457B plan. And it's through NACO, the National Association of Counties, is how this plan is set up. Nationwide sent us a notice that the board needs to, they're changing one of the pieces of the 457. You have that in your packet. But essentially the change is there is a piece of it that has a guaranteed minimum interest rate in the 457, and they're changing their programming on that. It's going from 3.5% down to 0.5%. There's 2 ways that they're doing that, and the board has to make the decision which way they want the plan set up to change. One of them, it'll slowly go down over time. The first option, the minimum gross crediting rate is 10 basis points higher than the second option. However, the amount of transfer that an employee could transfer out of this piece of the 457 at the higher basis points is 20% annually, whereas the lower basis points, they could transfer out 40% annually to be able to transfer more of it out to get a higher yield. So it's apparently the board's decision which of those 2 options. Now, I did check, we have around 30 employees that use the 457. Some of them are retired and drawing on it now. They will receive a notice. Crystal had asked me if they'd received notice. They have not. So they will receive notice after the board makes their decision on which option to, that they feel would be better for the 457.
I'll make a motion to adopt option 2, which will allow a larger percentage of the transfer out, since,
Second that.
I mean, just generally thinking out loud that if the interest rate on that sub part of their investments is decreasing and they want to do something different, I think we should give them the option to get out more of it as soon as possible, so they can reallocate. Option 2.
Second.
Schultz,
Aye.
DeCook,
Aye.
McIntyre.
Aye. Okay. Moving on to agenda item 6, consider law enforcement center and courthouse change orders with possible action. We have A, change order number 5 with Vanderpool Construction. B, change order number 6 with ECCO Midwest. And C, change order number 7 with Vanderpool Construction.
Morning.
Morning.
Item 6, as mentioned, is for Vanderpool in the amount of $5,016. That was based on a supplemental instruction issued by the architect to revise the location of the storm drain on Salem Ave. As you know, we bid the removal of the courthouse and that storm sewer work before the design was complete on the new courthouse. And due to things shifting around, we had to move some stuff out in that street, so that's what that's for.
Could you state the number one more time? I didn't catch it.
That's change order 5, and the amount was $5,000, or $5,016. Change order 6 is for Eco Midwest. During demolition of the courthouse, we had a stop. There was some suspect material found in a couple stories. There was a pipe chase going through the first story and second story of the building that we tested and found out was asbestos, so we had to get that out of there. So that's the last asbestos item. Obviously, the courthouse is now gone. The amount for that was $2,749.54. And then the last change order is for Vanderpool as well. That's change order 7 in the amount of $738. That is due to a manhole that we had to rebuild due to the existing city storm sewer not being at the elevations that we had hoped they were at, I guess. They were concealed. That wasn't something we could verify in the site survey, so once we dug it up, we found out the elevations had changed, so that's what that's for. It's just a material item.
I would move the three change orders, A, B, and C.
You have a second?
Second.
McIntyre,
Aye.
Schul,
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye.
Okay, item number 7, consider engineer's proposal for the proposed secondary roads facility with possible action.
So I know we met maybe a month ago or so, and we wanted to bring to the table some more proposals for discussion. I say proposals because there's still maybe a few options to consider. One of those, I think the first option to consider is possibly pulling a loan for the facility, and that would get you the full package. And that's entirely up to the board. That, the next downsize option is we start to scale it back and draw the number down to possibly a $2.9, $3.4 million range. I know another option that was discussed was a bond option. However, with the courthouse and E911 bonds going out to the public, our department feels like they may not have an appetite for another bond at this point.
Just so I understand now, how do we debt finance this?
We could potentially take a loan out, and that would require us to have another work session, probably with Mark Corey and some others to hash that out, but that would be another option that would finance the entire site.
Apparently, we can go around the 60% rule.
So we've looked at this, Doug Eichholz, we've talked preliminarily with Mark Corey about it. There's a provision in the code that says the board can authorize a loan agreement payable from the general fund if the loan agreement would not cause the total of scheduled annual payments of principal and interest due from the general fund in any single fiscal year not exceed 10% of the last certified general fund budget. So I think, I don't know what the last certified general fund budget was, Megan?
Off the top of my head.
25-ish%, I think it's a
Right.
big number.
So, and to my knowledge, we don't have any other loan agreements out there, right?
Let's see, do we still have the equipment, did we pay those off?
No,
The lease,
we have the lease purchase.
We have a-
The IT is paid off.
I think we're 3 years into that 5-year lease.
Gotcha.
The Motorola lease purchase will be refinanced into those bonds. But those those are all capital loan notes, they're all on their debt schedule.
Right. So it's not a loan against your general fund balance. So I don't believe it would count against the 10% limit.
But I mean, it's not close. I mean, those are not big amounts.
Correct.
So theoretically, then 10% of your 25 million, you could, as long as your principal and interest payments didn't exceed 2.5 million in the year, you could borrow that amount.
Just having a bank that can go 5-10 years.
It's whatever the bank's gonna decide, right?
Sure.
So,
And then I don't know, and if we can still match, we can help with some of those payments from our department as well, so it wouldn't be entirely general fund subsidized, so to speak. We can still work with each other to make payments and things of that nature, if you decide to go towards that route, and we would have another work session.
and there's some notice requirements that you have to follow before you approve it, but that's at least an option to think about.
I think I would not be in favor of taking it out for the vote.
No, I think that the consensus in the room is that, if we brought forth a shop site and brought it to a referendum needing 60%, I think that in light of the courthouse, the jail, and the 911, I don't think that that's going to be very successful. And so I think what we're trying to do is find a creative way to move forward, potentially scale back some of the shop site stuff, either phase it or we'll find a way to get it done, because the reality is that the shop site is I think what we've condemned one of the buildings already. I mean, it is something that's needed. We've already been down that road a I think Nevada has been paid, much of work's already been done. And now the cost of building it just increases every year with the increase of steel and labor, and so it's not getting cheaper to do it. So I think David's attempting to get creative for finding financing. And I know that you've got some reserves in your budget that probably can assist with that, and so I prefer that approach as well.
Okay, the cost, this sheet shows 6 something.
Yeah, just over 6 million.
6 million, whatever it is.
That's for the whole, all 3 buildings.
Gotcha.
It does not include the treatment,
Yeah,
the storage.
Yeah, I got you, $500,000.
Mhm.
But the 29234, it means we would do something in the future again. Is that right? Am I saying that right?
Is that the 2.9 million?
Well, you said that.
You mentioned 2.9 to 3.4 million. What-
That would be our, more of a plan if you don't go the loan route, because if we went with the loan, we would probably recommend that we pull, say, $7 million to cover us, even though it's not gonna cost that amount. You know, you wanna be covered when you pull a loan. But if we're not really going the loan route, then we'd have to scale back the facility, and then we'd start tweaking it down to that 2.9, $3.4 million number. That would include a $2 million match from secondary roads to get that number down that low. That's not without that match. But then we'd be scaling back the salt shed, the cold storage facilities, things of that nature. We'd almost be matching what we currently have, but it'd still be better.
And I'm thinking, as Aaron said, probably wouldn't make any difference if it was 6 or 3 million. I'm not sure we can get it past 60%. Seems to me that, are we saying we need to take this up again if we're gonna go with this?
I think it wouldn't hurt to schedule another work session to get more information on the loan option.
We can lay out all the notice requirements you would have, I mean, but just, it wouldn't be subject to a
I
vote.
understand, yeah, I got you.
And I'll be out of town the next week and a half. You can still have the meeting during that week as long as someone fills me in on the discussion, that's fine. I mean, we can, Tim or Brian or someone from our office can be there. I don't let that hold up any
When do you get
discussion.
back?
I get back Wednesday the following week, so
So is that the 11th or something?
something like that, maybe July.
July 10th.
11th, I think.
July 10th.
Well, if it's agreeable with Doug in the chair,
July 10th.
let's find a time in early, mid-July. I think on the 17th, I may be gone, or 16th or something, I may be gone for a couple of days, but sometime early, mid-July, what I would like to see is all options sort of laid out with what each of those entail as far as notice, votes, numbers. I still think, and I've explained this to our engineer as well, I still think that the total number on the whole shooting match of the building, in my estimation, seems high. And I get that it's needed, but I think we have to look really diligently at maybe still trying to get the total number down on all of it. And it'd be my preference to do the entirety of it at one swoop. I mean, otherwise, we're gonna do it piecemeal, and parts that we don't do are gonna cost more money when they come online in a year or two, or boards change and numbers change and emergencies come up, and then maybe something doesn't happen. So it'd be my preference to get all of it done at once. That said, I still think that the 6 million, dab over $6 million is gonna seem high. I mean, it seems high to me, but again, I'm not in the building industry, so, those are my thoughts, but I would like to see all examples laid out, all potential paths, and then we can really explore what we think makes the most sense. And I'd like to see sort of numbers on repayment, I mean, I'd almost like to find out sort of generally what sort of loan rate we can get with a local bank, either True Bank or Indianola Banks or whoever. Have a few of them bid it out, and I think we're a pretty good bet to pay them back, so maybe we can beat them up and see if someone wants to do it for a nick under market or right at market.
I'll go pursue that, yeah. Any bank in Warren County would be my,
Yeah, I'd like to keep it local too.
see what they do.
The only thing I caution with reducing the facility too much is we just don't wanna lose any functionality, because once we start losing the functionality of the facility, then we won't wanna erect it at that point.
Well, I'm not saying, I'm not proposing slash and burn facility, I just kind of have a good sense for people's appetite for additional debt at this point, and the building process, and you're gonna get comments about why does a storage building do, I mean, I get it and you get it, but.
Because, I guess I would say if we know we're gonna build that next phase in, say, 5 years from now, now the debt's even larger on there, for a burden for them to bear. And then you're kinda just passing on the debt at that point.
So if we could get numbers and plan options for a July 10 through 15 meeting, I think that'd be appropriate, and then we can really spend some time on it, because I'd like to do so.
I just did a quick calculation on taking the square footage of the buildings and then rough, very rough, in the architect's head, and then dividing it by the number, and I was coming up with $125 a square foot. I'm working on another facility right now in another county, and I checked with a local provider of pre-engineered metal buildings, which this is, and he's saying that the range is $100 a square foot for just basic storage space. If you build it out, it's $150 a square foot. We have a combination on this project, so, you know, it's consistent with what I'm in hearing from the, right now. It might be that we are a little bit generous in our estimate, because it's better to be high than it is low sometimes. But we need to be realistic too.
No, and I appreciate the point of reference. I'm just, yeah, I think there's gonna be, I think it's gonna be critically needed to have some public education on it as well, because, you know, from John Q. Public's perspective, who's maybe built a Morton building to house, you know, a tractor or an RV or a toy or two. They're building a steel building, and it's pretty inexpensive relatively.
Yeah.
But then again, those buildings don't need to have concrete up the sides to prevent wear and tear and rusting out. I mean,
Or foundations even.
Or a foundation, or holding salt, or having a wash bay. Those things cost money, and I'm realistic in that too. I just think that we need to make sure we're doing it right by the people that are paying for it.
Mm-hmm. It might be that we have the drawings pretty well done, and I can throw this out there. We can maybe hire a contractor to give us an estimate on what that would be. And then we'd have a pretty good idea then what the cost. If that helps. I'm just kind of throwing that out there. We've done that in the past. I don't know if I've done one that is this large. Usually it's a little bit smaller projects, but I'm sure somebody would be willing.
And just for the public's perspective, I mean, your plans have more or less stayed similar in the request for what you need for the facilities, correct?
Mhm.
And what was the number built 3 years ago or 4 years ago? I mean, do you have some historical?
It started around 5 million, and then this cost estimate, you can see that the 2017 cost was almost 5.5 million, and now we're up to,
I mean, the point is,
it just keeps.
it's not getting cheaper to build this thing 3 more years from now. And so at some point, you gotta rip the Band-Aid off and get something done.
I think over the last 2 years, we found that it was 4.25 was the inflation rate for the last 2 years, from 2017 to 2019. So that's what we kind of plugged in. Hindsight, yeah.
You get it? Okay.
Does this create any efficiencies in our county by getting this building?
Yeah. It will increase the life of vehicles, we'll have a main facility not to run through town anymore. It's sized for satellite shops, so in future phases, since it is sized for the satellite shops in the four corners of the county, it is downsized in general for that. So then, once this gets the green light, we can start looking more into the satellite shops to have even better response times throughout the county as we keep building our fleet to haul materials in.
You can maintain the vehicles without taking all the apparatus off of them. Like right now, you have to take the apparatus off of the dump truck to get inside the maintenance bay, which is time. You can wash the
It would just
vehicles.
allow us space to actually work properly on the equipment.
Yeah. Wash vehicles, you keep the salt and everything off of them. There's a lot of
I mean,
positives.
without giving, service lives, we see equipment out there that we are lucky enough to house indoors with longer hours on it, and for some reason that's in better condition than the ones that have to sit outside with shorter hours on it. So it's, without putting certain years to it, it's just kind of a visual thing even. I mean, there's a reason people build machines, set sheds and garages for their vehicles, it protects them.
Could you give an example of approximately what sort of assets you have as far as machinery, like total dollars of machinery, or what? A ballpark's fine.
I'm not gonna come up with that off the top of my head.
Uh,
Don't even look at-
That was directed towards you, Megan.
I had that number at one point, but
I mean, are we-
it's in the $5 to $10 million range that's just sitting out there.
I'm surprised it isn't more than that.
I'd say it's around the 10 mil, floats around 10 million.
So the point is if you can extend life of the machines and increase that, 5% or better by having something stored inside and maintained better, there's a slow payback to it, but there is some efficiencies with that, and I understand and appreciate it.
Got to take care of that brand new maintainer that I saw out there the other day.
Yep,
It looks brand new anyway, I don't know what it is.
probably is, but we buy maintainers new and rotate them through, and generally they get to 10,000 hours, and we're starting to kind of try and shift them out, so. But it'll vary depending on, like we mentioned, if they're, stored properly or not.
And right now, you have no place to store that maintainer on your current facility. I don't even know if you can.
And a maintainer
It won't
alone is
even fit in the maintenance bay either, would it?
yeah, it's a $300,000 piece of machinery that just shouldn't sit outside at the end of the day. So we are starting to take down some satellite shops too that are in need of demolition, and we'll be searching for vehicle plug-ins for those.
Any further questions? Okay, well, thank you. And I look forward to another presentation after you get back. Okay, item number 8 is consider bond measure to resurface 26 miles of paved county highways with possible action.
So this was also mentioned at the work session, June 5th. But basically, short and sweet, our department recommends doing some high-performance asphalt lifts on county highways, in a sense to save some of them that are especially R57 north of 92 and as we go around. But this would affect all four corners of the county, again, some of the more higher traffic roads we have. And generally, I think as we go towards bond options like many counties do in the state of Iowa, if we decide to move forward with them, it is nice to hit more of your